Well, you've probably heard that there's some trouble brewing in the fruit-growing areas of the Western Cape with labour problems again, with demands over wages and conditions. But I'll tell you something, that is a very minor problem to the one that is actually brewing there. Now, I'm sure you've all heard that expression, when America sneezes, the world catches a cold. That's because economies are so integrated. If one aspect is affected, it has a knock-on effect to all sorts of others. It reverberates throughout the economy. This week, I'm actually going to deal with a classic example, which starts actually in the fruit-growing areas of the Western Cape. It concerns that massive army of unpaid workers, bees, honeybees to be exact. You know, 1/3 of them are now estimated to be infected by something called American foul brood disease. This is the AIDS for bees. They're dying, many of them are dying, and you might say, well, so what? There might be a shortage of honey, the price may go up, but it's not just honey. Bees, honeybees, are the main pollinators that are used to pollinate the fruit trees. Without bees, there's no pollination. Without pollination, there is no fruit. Without fruit, there are no jobs. There is no export. The 7 billion rand a year export industry from the Western Cape alone is actually threatened unless something is done about it. It's an extremely serious business. For example, in the New South Wales state of Australia, foul brood is a notifiable disease. And in the European Union, as well as in Australia and other areas, stringent measures have been applied, not just by beekeepers, but by governments, authorities throughout the rank and file of every single institute to try to control, if not entirely eradicate this disease. And they've succeeded by these stringent methods. Here, we've been, to put it mildly, still rather tardy. And in fact, although it's not officially admitted, the official tactic to deal with this incredible disease is antibiotics, which have failed all over the world. In fact, I was notified this week by the Australian Beekeepers Association that as far as they're concerned, the use of antibiotics merely masks the disease. In other words, it makes it easier to spread. And this is very, very dangerous. Not only is it threatening the 7 million rand fruit export business in the Western Cape, if it spreads to the rest of the country, it will affect all sorts of other fruits, foods, etc. Don't forget, 70% of foods that we as people eat require pollination. And then it could spread into the rest of Africa. So what can you do about it? I think you should get on to talk radio, write letters to the editor, put pressure on the government. Something needs to be done. Let's hope we don't have to wait for a severe crisis to develop as it did in power, in steel, in mining, before we get together to talk and before we get together to take action. We've got to do this. Well, anyhow, this is the subject of my Inside Labour column, which you can read on this platform, Fin24, tomorrow, and in the City Press business section on Sunday. And of course, you can still comment. You can still write, not below, but still write to me via editor@fin24.com. That's editor@fin24.com. All of these comments, criticisms, suggestions will come through and will be dealt with and answered. And from me, that's all for this week. Cheers.